Okay, last one for this batch. From Robbinsville, New Jersey, we have Portable Diagnostic Systems. Presenting for Portable Diagnostic Systems is Glennon Simmons. Come on out.
My name is Glennon Simmons, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Portable Diagnostic Systems. We're working to make diagnostic testing more accessible and affordable with next-generation lab-on-a-chip technology.
Everyone knows that the US has a drug problem. Next slide. Every 25 minutes, a baby is born in opioid withdrawal. And about every 60 minutes, a fatal accident occurs due to impaired driving, where drugs other than alcohol are primarily responsible. And 1 in 6 death investigations is a suspected overdose. There are so many of these things happening that they can't all be investigated. At Portable Diagnostic Systems, we are bringing laboratory quality toxicology testing to the point of need. Next slide. This is the Integrity One analysis system. For clinicians and investigators, it is a toxicology lab in a box. This compact, portable, battery-powered instrument works with an innovative lab-on-a-chip device that can make up to 100 simultaneous measurements from a single drop of saliva. This is possible using our novel recirculation technique that allows us to get more information out of that tiny volume of fluid. Let me show you how it works. Cut to demo. My co-founder, Nico, here has just ingested one of the most dangerous and addictive substances known to man. Don't worry, it's not fentanyl. We're talking about the caffeine in his coffee. Let's see if we can detect it in his saliva. Nico is going to collect some of his saliva and dropper it into our microfluidic cartridge. At that point, he's going to move back to presentation. Next slide. The cartridge is loaded into the front of the instrument, and a test is initiated on the touchscreen. The assay processes automatically using our recirculating flow technique, and the results pop up on screen in less than 5 minutes. Next slide. This platform technology has numerous market potential in the diagnostic testing market, which is valued at over $110 billion globally. Except the pathway to get a regulated diagnostic test to market is very long. It can take more than 10 years, and it can cost more than $20 million. Next slide. So we first launched in the forensic toxicology market, which has immediate need, high growth potential, and has minimal regulatory burden. The FDA has regulatory discretion and currently chooses not to regulate drug tests labeled for forensic use only. This allows us to get a product to market quickly while expanding to those regulated diagnostic testing markets over time. Next slide. Our first product is a roadside drug test for law enforcement. Our market competitors are primarily based on lateral flow immunochromatographic test strips. They can only test for a few drugs, and they require a high sample volume, which is difficult to collect in the field. Drugs like opioids and cannabis, they cause dry mouth, and so often you can't collect the sample volume you need to run the test. With our microfluidics-based approach, we can always get the right amount of sample to run a test. And we can detect more drugs than any of these other platforms, and we're the only device in this category that can detect fentanyl down to the relevant cutoff values recommended by the National Safety Council. Next slide. In our beachhead market opportunity, we are trying to reach 18,000 police departments in the United States, and that is a $300 million serviceable, obtainable market opportunity. This is our leapfrog point to get into other forensic toxicology markets, such as cause of death investigation and neonatal toxicology, where we have SBIR grant funding through the NIH and CDC. Next slide. So we have just completed our hardware MVP that you see in our demo, and we are supported by SOSV and HACS. We have 2 active pilot programs with law enforcement agencies, and we are currently looking for additional pilot partners. We currently have 15 prospect law enforcement pilots. Next slide. We are Portable Diagnostic Systems. Our team consists of industry experts with more than 30 years experience in in vitro diagnostic testing and hardware product development, with specific experience in microfluidics, immunoassay, mechatronics, AI, business development, and finance. Let's check back in with Nico and see how the sample is coming along. Move to demo. So on the left, you see our active test. It's still running. On the right, we ran a test before just to make sure that we would have an answer. But as you can see, Nico was positive for caffeine. At least he wasn't positive for one of the other drugs on our test menu. We're going to let that continue to chug while we do the Q&A, and we'll loop back. We move to presentation. Next slide. We are Portable Diagnostic Systems. Please join us in making forensic toxicology and diagnostic testing more accessible and affordable. Thank you.
You can test for caffeine?
We developed that caffeine test in less than a week.
Oh, wow. Don't test
Specifically
me.
for this demo.
Yeah, all right.
We didn't want to test for fentanyl on stage. We thought that would be a bad idea.
Okay, let's start with Nikita.
Just very quickly, how big is that market? Let's say, you sell to every police department in the country. Like, what was that going to be?
Well, like I said, it's a $300 million serviceable, addressable market opportunity. In the US, it's probably closer to $1 billion globally. It's a big market, and there's more than just the roadside use case. There's, the parole and drug courts, and there's.
And what share do you think you can get of that market?
I think we can get quite a bit, but based on our value compared to Abbott and Draeger that are also in the space. I mean, they can only detect 6 to 8 drugs, and there's more than 30 that are of interest in fatal accident investigation. We want to provide a screening tool where you can test for that before somebody dies.
And my understanding is if you pulled over for a DUI, they do something roadside, and then if they suspect for you to be under influence, they bring you to a hospital. So you only kind of competing for that roadside piece.
Right. But what if that person that has to do a medical exam, this is a drug recognition expert, what if they have to come in from over 60 miles away, and the patrol officer is not sure because the standard field sobriety test, these were developed for alcohol and not drugs. We're providing an adjunct test to give them a non-subjective, data-driven approach to make decisions when it's drugs other than alcohol that's responsible for the impairment.
Rebecca?
So big believer in like eliminating traffic highway accidents. We did Luminar as for a LiDAR company.
Right.
There are 2 things. One, it looked like there were a number of other portable competitors. Maybe they didn't do fentanyl down to whatever, right? But it looked like there were a number of other portable competitors. So I'd like to understand that. And 2, why wouldn't you just do routine employee drug testing?
Good question. So the other competitors are Abbott and Draeger. They're arguably 2 of the biggest diagnostic companies in the world. They use lateral flow, and we can detect many more drugs than they can with their lateral flow-based approach. And so the value is really clear. When we go to conferences, we have a massive interest from our law enforcement customers, and we think that we found the right formula to achieve product market fit.
So it's because you have multiple tests, not because you have a lower detection limit for fentanyl.
It's because we can detect myriad drugs, and they want to use it as a screening tool. It's not an evidentiary test, and to screen for myriad drugs, you need to be able to test for myriad drugs.
Is it faster? Is it cheaper?
The sample collection is actually something that takes a long time. If you need to collect a milliliter of saliva, and that person has dry mouth, it takes up to 10 minutes. It only takes a few seconds to collect 10 microliters, and that's all that's needed for our test.
Okay, so faster, easier, cheaper?
Yes, of course.
Cheaper too.
We're bringing our instrument to market at a competitive price point. We are dealing with a procurement-based sale, so we are going to be very competitive on price, and our consumables are what's driving. We have a razor blade business model. So
The competitive is carrying a lot of weight there.
it weighs 1 pound, 14 ounces.
All right, let's go to
And
Guru.
one of the other competing technologies weighs 9 pounds, by the way.
So I just want to talk real quick about regulations. Do the competitors, have they gone through regulatory frameworks? And does that mean you do? So that's one. And even without regulation, I'm sure there's some level of, how do you win trust, right? If I'm a cop, I'm worried about, okay, I use this and then I get sued. How do I prove in court that this is legit? So
It's an adjunct test. So we don't need regulatory approval. None of the tests employed in this space are FDA approved.
so the competitors
Clear.
don't have regulatory approval.
Right, and this is an adjunct test. It's used as supplementary information. Anytime you have a positive test, you're required to get a secondary confirmatory test with a lab-based method like LCMS.
Got it.
So that's what's evidential.
And do you require the regulation to be there so the cop, once the cop sees that one of the tests is positive, you cannot refuse to go to the hospital? As a
In that case, there's different laws in each state, but if someone refuses our test, in some states there's penalties for refusal, and regardless, that just means they're going to take them back for the drug recognition expert evaluation. They're going to have to go through the whole process.
Who will your next customer be after police stations?
We are looking at cause of death investigation, where we have an SBIR phase 1 right now through the NIH, and specifically with the NIDA. And then we're also looking at neonatal toxicology, where we have another grant through the New Jersey EDA.
And then for the neonatal toxicology application, will you then need 510K approval, regulatory approval?
For a forensic test, a test for legal purposes, no. For a clinical test, yes.
What's the right way to think about why Abbott won't say, wow, these guys have figured out something pretty smart. We have all this distribution, and clearly we need to be testing for more things these days, so we need to get on this ASAP.
I think that our prediction was that the drugs of abuse testing market would be unlocked when saliva is more accepted as a diagnostic medium. That is the big change that's happened in the industry in the last year or so. We've been innovating to capture that, and I think our giant competitors will be struggling to catch up.
Well, why is that? Just so I understand. I'm not an expert in the space.
Well, in my opinion, Abbott is a huge company, and this is a beachhead market for us. They've probably got bigger fish to fry, but we're going to be there with our tech, ready to ride the wave as this becomes more mainstream.
So is your advantage go to market, or is your advantage science and technology?
Both. I mean, we're ready to hit the market. Our hardware is just about fully developed, and we have an amazing technology that leverages microfluidics, where we can do all of these simultaneous measurements from a small volume. So we're solving the problems that are currently inherent in the existing tech on the market.
We're going to have to leave it there. Give them a round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, that concludes the third round of Startup Battlefield. Come back this afternoon for round 4. After that, TechCrunch editorial will combine all the feedback we received from all the judges and select 5 finalists that will present again tomorrow to another set of judges. But coming up next on this stage is JB Straubel. He's the founder of Redwood Materials, a pioneering company in the sustainability space. He was also the CTO at Tesla and a current board member of Tesla. So stay put, we'll be right back. Thank you so much.